Tu Kazimierz, jestem w Waszyngtonie na zjeździe z Mars Society International Annual Convention Catholic University of America. W tej chwili odbywa się debata pomiędzy Basem Landorfem a grupą osób, uczonych z MIT, Institute of Technology, którzy kwestionują przygotowanie.
Good evening.
Teraz oni zaprezentowali swoje stanowisko.
Please, can I see hands? Who here is 45 years old or younger?
Zaraz
So like all the people that just raised their hands, I was not alive. Younger I asked. Like all the people that just raised their hands, I was not alive when all of humanity held its breath and witnessed the most exciting history of our planet, the landing of the Apollo 11 mission. I was born 8 years later, 1977, but I have lived the Apollo mission through the recordings that all of us have seen so many times. And Neil Armstrong walking down the ladder, carefully placing his foot on the lunar soil. His brilliant quote, "Small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin hopping along on the lunar surface in low gravity. Yeah, that's amazing stuff. And to me, the moon landing is still the pinnacle of perseverance, ambition, resilience. It's all that and more. It's one of the few moments in history where the whole world came to a standstill for a positive reason. It's now 46 years later, and still these recordings inspire millions around the world, including me. So a few facts about the Apollo missions. When Kennedy presented his plans in '61, that was 4 years after the first human went to space. Sorry, the first satellite went to space, the Sputnik. It was 1 month after the first human went to space. No American had been in orbit around the Earth yet when Kennedy said we will land a man on the moon before the end of the decade and bring him back safely. More than 50% of the attempts to reach orbit by the US failed, the unmanned launches. More than 50% failed, and Kennedy said before the end of the decade, etc. In 8 years' time, all that was developed and much more. And we needed rockets to go to the moon, we needed the portable life support systems, the moon landing systems, computers. All that was developed and more in just 8 years' time. So why am I talking about the moon? We're going to Mars, right? Well, there's a number of similarities between the Apollo program and Mars 1. Both were and are clear and audacious goals. Both need a lot of work to be implemented. And both are in the pre-phase A stage of development. Mars 1's goal is not to send humans to Mars in 2027 with a $6 billion budget and 14 launches. Our goal is to send humans to Mars, period. For that reason, I actually consider the study that Andrew and Sydney did a confirmation of Mars 1's plan. Yes, this is feasible. Our plan is not etched in stone. And we've already announced 2 delays. We were originally landing in 2023. Maybe some of you remember that. Reality catches up with your plan, and that's okay. When Sydney and Andrew released their plan, Mars 1 did not embrace it, which I think we should have. I think that was a mistake by Mars 1. We should have embraced the plan because it shows that permanent Mars settlement is possible. And Sydney and Andrew did this demonstration with a completely different approach than Mars 1, and with existing simulation models for deep space missions. Look at this picture. It's the only other slide I have. Top left, you see the expected design in May 61. To the right, June 61. To the right, July 61. To the right, December 61. Our plan is at the same stage as Kennedy's plan was when he announced it in the pre-phase A phase. Our plan will change. It will look nothing like what you see in the pictures. So there's many similarities between the moon mission that Kennedy proposed and our mission. But there's also many differences. The most important one, when Kennedy launched his plan, almost none of the technology was existing. For us, a lot of the technology does exist. Not the actual systems, but the ways to build these systems, the actual physical principles, materials, they do exist. They don't need to be invented. Completely different than the Apollo mission. Another important difference was that Kennedy had the unlimited resources of NASA. We do not. Mars has actually quite limited resources, and that has been the only reason that we've had to announce our 2 delays so far. If I had to choose between organizing a mission to Mars without having any of the technology or without having any of the money, I would choose to organize this mission without having the money. Because I think it's a lot easier to raise money for a mission like this than to develop the technology. So we've recently received a report by Paragon Space Development Corporation for our life support system. This is exactly what Mars 1 is about right now. We need to finance all the studies by all our different aerospace suppliers, established aerospace suppliers with decades of experience that can show how we can implement this mission. And we're not nearly there yet. We've so far had 1 report by Lockheed Martin and 1 report by Paragon. We need to have these reports for all our missions. There's many things still to be done. I actually think that I'll hand it over to Barry now to talk about the life support system, and we'll deal with some of the other questions that Andrew and Sydney posed after they go on again. There you go.
Okay, well, thank you, and Dr. Zubrin, thanks for adding me kind of late to this panel. Appreciate it. First of all, I feel like Andrew and Sydney already gave my presentation, but I'll probably put a little bit different nuance on it. I'm going to kind of go about this maybe a little bit different. I hope it's got some of the facts you guys are looking for. But what I'm going to do is talk about my experience in aerospace, and it may be a little bit different than the average engineer, but I think it brings a perspective to what we're trying to do here. And I should say the focus on our work was assessing feasibility of the initial ECLSS, or Environmental Control Life Support System, for the base. So in my career, I started out in the bioregenerative world, and we all know Mars 1 has talked about doing that. We'll talk about later, but we recommend that's not where you start. But that's where I cut my teeth, working with scientists, doing far-out technology development, trying to grow plants to do regenerative life support systems. What I realized was that wasn't going to happen anytime soon. After about 5 years on that program, I said, I gotta go do some human space. And so I took a job with Honeywell and got a job on site at JSC supporting the work that goes there on advanced life support. A little more practical work in terms of near-term applications, developing what they called advanced life support systems at the time. Then the career forced me to also start looking at real systems that are flying. I ended up being sustaining engineering manager for Honeywell and for all the environmental control and life support systems they provide for ISS. So I worked that side of the business. kind of realized maybe Honeywell wasn't in going after human spaceflight as much as I wanted. I tried to switch to another United Technologies Corporation, another Eclipse provider doing station. They still weren't getting it for me. So I went on, took a job at Bigelow Aerospace, second person hired when we opened up the Houston office. That might be a picture of a Genesis module under construction. Moved on from there, went to Paragon, I've been there for quite a while now. And at Paragon, we have a mixture of government contracts and private contractors like Mars One. So again, this isn't to talk about me and my career and what I've done, but in the span of these 20-something years, what I've been exposed to are people, technologies, NASA. I've heard some talk against NASA here. I can tell you Mars One or any Mars exploration mission will not be successful without input from agencies like that, like NASA. There's just too much knowledge there. So that has to be brought to bear on solving these problems. So what I'll talk about here is from the feasibility perspective. So this is looking at heritage airspace. So this is the Honeywells, the Hamiltons, the NASAs, those types of what they bring. Well, there's just an incredible amount of knowledge that they have. There's just so much there. There's manufacturing capability.